Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Stone Cold Hockey video to do with the 1984 Edmonton Oilers. And we're near the end of the season. We finished 72 games out of our 80, so we have 8 games left. So there will probably be 2 videos. I don't know if this will be the second last regular season video or not, but I don't know. Anyway, we have 91 points. We lead the conference by 9 points, and we lead the Flames by 14 points. So we're almost, I think we're there, aren't we? Well, we have 8 games left, 16. There's still a time. Calgary still has a chance. We have to win a few games and we clinch the division and we can just rest our players, if you will. So yeah, it'd be like, well, we're first place. I'll probably just put my foot off the pedal, if you will. Minnesota and St. Louis are dogfighting in the North. Detroit and Chicago are trying to fight for third. Toronto's 5 points back. They still have a chance. So we look good against Calgary. Vancouver has a narrow chance to get third place. Winnipeg can't get third. Can't. Well, Winnipeg, Vancouver will battle for third and try to avoid us in the playoffs. LA's nowhere near it. In the Avs division, Buffalo has a 5 point lead over Boston for the Adams, with Quebec and Montreal fighting for third and to avoid Buffalo. Washington 100 points. The others 93. Rangers 89. Flyers look like they're fourth and might play Washington. Who knows? But yeah, we could see the Battle of New York in '84. Goal scoring. Gretzky has an 11-goal lead on Pierre LaRouche. Michel Goulet, Mike Garner also have 50 goals. Rick 5 looking for 50. Mike Bossy, Rick Middleton, Brian Sutter, Peter Stastny. We could see 10 50-goal scorers. Who knows? Paul Coffey is our second best goal scorer. He's 14th in the NHL with 39. Yuri Kurie's got 38, so he's closing. And Glenn Anderson has 35. Points wise, Gretzky's got this one in the bag. Coffey is fighting Goulet for second in points. Middleton and Barry Pedersen have 100 points. Brian Trottier 1 point short. Bossy's 2 short. Peter Stastny 2 points short. Dale Hawerchuk, Brian Sutter. So we got 10 100 pointers, I think. Yuri Kurie's 18th on the list of points with 85, and Glenn Anderson's 28th. Goals against, Al Jansen looks good with Tom Barrasso and Pete Peters fighting it out. So yeah, our conference is basically ours for the taking if we can take it. Moog 9th in goals against and Fuhrer 11th. Standings wise, Calgary's got 9 games left, 18 points. So they can get 95 points. We have to basically win a couple games. Vancouver and Winnipeg are fighting it out. Winnipeg does have plenty of games in hand. Vancouver has 6 games left. Winnipeg has 10 for third place and maybe just ahead of Calgary. Well, they can only hope. It's a miracle. Quebec and Montreal would be fighting it out. Know that New Jersey's got a better point differential than Pittsburgh, but that doesn't matter. We've scored 339 goals. That is the most in the NHL. Second place, well, Rangers 317. Boston and Quebec have scored 316. Minnesota has had 313. We've given up 253 goals, the least in our conference. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the Wales with the better goals against. We're 23, 10, and 12. St. Louis has won 22 games at home. We've won 23, so we're tops in our conference by just an inch. Look at the Whales. Buffalo, Boston, Quebec, and Montreal. Less than 10 losses at home. We've watched it on there's Rangers also there too. So basically, if you're at home, you're going to probably see a lot of things. We've won 20 road games. We are third in the NHL behind Washington and Boston. Highlights wise, 78 hat tricks. Silasalo had a hat trick for Philly, but they tied. As for the 35 point save, there's been 7 games to be set to 35 or more. New Jersey, Toronto, October 16th, when the Devils finally won a game, or cared to win a game. Toronto stepped it up. St. Louis and Winnipeg both 16, 14, and 4 when St. Louis won 7-6. St. Louis 8-5. When Montreal was up 5-2 and gave up 6 straight goals. Hartford and Calgary, Hartford winning 6-5. That Calgary was up 5-1. Edmonton, Hartford, Edmonton doing their job. We were up 3-0 on Hartford, but we lost in overtime. I think we did that game. And then 9-7 against St. Louis. Toronto 7-6 on October 8th. That's also 35 points. Schedule wise, we go to Montreal. We beat Quebec in the last game. So Montreal, Rick Wamsley in the net against Andy Moog. Well, we have Grant Fuhr also. Montreal has Sevigny, Holden, and Penny. Surprisingly, they're not in, like Steve Penny. So our players, Wayne Gretzky, the great one, Glenn Anderson, Yari Curry, the original Finnish star, not Timu, Paul Coffey, Kitchener, defense, Mark Moon Messier, Pat Hughes, Dave Hunter, Willie Lindstrom, Ken the Rat Linsman, Dr. Randy Gregg, Euro Pusar, Charlie Huddy, Kevin McClellan, Donnie Jackson, Dave Lumley, the enforcer, Dave Semenko, Lee Vogelin, Kevin Lowe, Pat Cuttaker, Rick Chartra, Kitchener, Ken Berry, Ramos Sumanen, and Jim Playfair, who basically was the guy who embarrassed himself in 2010 on YouTube in an AHL game. Montreal, Ledemont Blonde still around. Guy Lafleur, Matt Naslin, Bobby Smith, great player for both the Habs and the North Stars. Guy Carbonneau, the Shadow, Ryan Walter, Sean Shabbat, Bob Gainey, the original Shadow, Chris Nyland, the enforcer, Pierre Mondu, Mara Tremblay. That guy just pisses me right off. I keep saying it from the last video. I say it this time. Steve Shutt, who once had 60 goals in a season. Larry Robinson, Kitchener. Craig Ludwig with his battered shin pads later on in life. Alfie Turcotte, Peter Turbo. Mark Hunter, Dougie Wickenheiser. Yeah, it's Mark versus Dave Hunter. That's weird. Doug Wickenheiser, the number one overall pick the Habs had, but then traded him to St. Louis because he was useless, and they could have had Denny Savard, Mike McPhee, Bill Root, Ken Carlson, Sean Hamel, who unfortunately would retire after the 84 season because of the whole Monday night. What do you call it? The whole mess with the Good Friday massacre, or Good Friday brawl, and Rick Natras as well. 1 minute into the game, Pat Hughes. Now, nope. No chance. Larry Robinson, no. 6 minutes later, Mario Tremblay, good. But they killed the zone on us. 5 minutes later, we score! Huddy, huddy, huddy. Oi, oi, oi. His eighth from Coffee. 20 minutes. Montreal's won more in this scenario than they did in real life, 37-35. We can't do that. 1 minute later. 3 minutes later. Shutskills. Misty Hughes is 21st from Low and Gratz. 2-1. 2 minutes later. Meet me in the middle. Heavily on us, McClellan. Oi, oi, oi. Battle. Pressure. Takes the penalty for Moots. Messier. Naslin. 3 minutes later, a fight. Don Jackson, Perry Turnbull fighting each other. So yeah, one team doesn't really care. We score. Curry Dahl, his 39th from Coffee and Anderson, makes it 3-1. Much later, killing the clock. I think we're doing. 1 minute. 1 minute later, nope. Empty net time. It's a goal. It is a goal. Somebody get low, 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 low. It's 9 from McClellan and Messier. That ices it. We take down Montreal 4-2. That's a big win for us. Kevin Lowe gets the goal with Curry, Hughes, and Huddy. Smith and Carbo for Montreal. So we win 4-2. And we got to wait for Calgary. Friday, they host Chicago and beat Chicago. Draft. Nothing yet. We host LA on Hockey Night in Canada. Calgary is off. Vancouver loses to their expansion mates Buffalo, and Toronto beats Montreal on Hockey Night in Canada. So we host LA, the worst team in our division. Mike Blake will make the start against Grant Fuhr. The Kings are Matt Blake, Matson, Laskowski, Barron, and Mario Lazard. in the net spread Kings. In their form purple, Charlie Simmer with Marcel Dion and Dave Taylor, the Triple Crown line, still around. Bernie Nichols, great player for the Kings before he got traded to the Rangers. Jim Fox, great commentator later in life for the Kings. Brian McClellan, Dougie Smith, Anders Hackerson, Mike McEwen, who we had with the Islanders after the Rockies dumped him off because of Don Cherry. Wes Jarvis, Mark Hardy, who would go to the Rangers. Ken Houston, former Atlanta Flame. Steve Kristoff, part of the American Ice team. Terry Wiskowski, J.P. Kelly, Russ Anderson, Jay Wells, the Pride of Paris. Mark Trudy, Kevin Lavelli, Brian Egblom. Billy Harris, a number one draft pick from the Islanders in '72. Fred Barrett, Dean Kennedy, and all that. Early on, they score Wes Jarvis. I know there's a former Kitchener Ranger named Wes Jarvis, but I think that was his father. Smith and Taylor with the assist. Damn it. 2 minutes later. The only coffee I drink is ice caps. Kitchener! His 40th from Lindstrom and Puzar. Much later. Coffee, of course. With a chance that they score, Ruskowski from Fox and Taylor makes it 2-1. Much later. Second, Evan Major on Simmer. So he's in the box. We can score as many goals in 5 minutes. It's not a power play, per se. It off, didn't we? One freaking goal. 3 minutes later. The great one, number 67. Five minutes later. Chasing to win the division. 1 minute later. Agitated. We give the hits, they get agitated. It's Jarvis for 2. Mr. Anderson. His 36 from Don Jackson. Yeah, the Kings have lost a lot more than they did. Linsman 4-2. The Kings are basically saying, fuck this. Luskowski's in the net. Engblom gets hit, and they missed the power play goal. 3 minutes later. N-E-R, bitch. 2 minutes later. Didn't mean no, that was not part of the Gretzky deal. Curry had his contract with Edmonton, well, and he went to Italy for the 1990-91 season, and then Edmonton traded his contract to the Kings. And 3 minutes later, a fight between Ruskowski and Hetty. Didn't know Ruskowski could fight. And Jim Fox can't put it in. Make mincemeat out of 7-2 is the final. They were up 2-1, but 6 straight goals. You know, you can't do that. Coffee with the hat trick, 1 goal in each period. That's a pretty good mark. Sunday, Calgary goes to Winnipeg and beats Winnipeg. So they're not giving up any hope either. I wonder how close we are. Well, they play Hartford, and wow, an upset. Hartford beats Calgary 3-2. How the hell did they do that? They beat us when Greg Millen, RIP, beats Lemlin. Hartford goes by Curry Turgeon. Calgary goes by Lanning and Beers. Our next game is against Hartford. Well, they're doing the Alberta double. Yeah, they can't catch us. Yeah, those 2 wins actually, 6-12, 93. Yeah, Calgary can't catch us. So we might as well just simulate because there's nothing we could do. But we do We'll do the third game against Hartford, and then we'll simulate the other four because it's not worth it. Because we know we're going to win the division. We know Calgary's going to be second. I mean, yeah, Winnipeg and Vancouver will be fighting for third, and Winnipeg does have apparent games in hand to avoid us. But we can always just keep our eyeballs on the scores. St. Louis, yeah, St. Louis can't catch Minnesota because they only have 2 games left. 4 points, 86. Yeah, so they can't catch. Chicago, Detroit, Toronto is not out of it yet, but they're running out of time. So it looks like Minnesota will win the North, will win the Smythe. Calgary would be number 2. Yeah, Minnesota, St. Louis. St. Louis will be number 2. There's no way Chicago's going to catch. So yeah, I got that. Buffalo's 6 points up on Boston, but Boston has 6 games left. Quebec still has a chance to catch for second. Montreal has a slim chance to catch for third. Washington and the Islanders are fighting it out. Those pesky Islanders. Rangers are third, and they're almost quite third. Phillies fourth. So yeah, we'll play the Hartford game. Well, we won the division. Hartford did us a favor, and Greg Millen in the net against Grant Fuhr. So I wish we had like a third goalie and all that to just throw it away. 6 minutes later. Curry Dawn. Great job by Hartford. I mean, for us, Curry's 42nd from Wheeler Lindstrom. 1 minute later. Much later. Another hit. All that for just that. Much later. They scored. Tony Curry's third of the night from Malone in Calgary, 2 goals, and then in Alberta, Malone and Siltonen the assist. Oh shit balls! I forgot to do the Hartford lineup. Greg Millen, Ed Stankowski, and Mike Pfizer are your goalies. Sylvain Terjean, Pierre's young older brother. Bob Crawford, Mark Johnson, American Ice, Ray Neufeld, Ronnie Francis, the fitness freak. He was Hartford's best player in the 80s, excuse me. Greg Malone, Risto Siltanen, remember him. Tony Curry, Norm DuPont, Tori Robertson, Mike Zook, Doug Sullivan, Randy Pierce, who got penalized one time for kissing the puck and throwing it over the stands. Richie Dunn, Chris Kostopoulos, made fun of for his podcast. Joe Quenville, unfortunately, having a checkered past and all that. He was out of coaching until he came back with Anaheim this year. Dave Tippett, future head coach. Steve Stoyanovich. I keep thinking Stoyanovich was a basketball player from Missouri. Jack Bronchido, Mike Crombeen, former star with the St. Louis Blues. Dan Bourbonnais, Marty Howe still around, Ed Hospital, and Mark Fusco. Much later. Doctor, where are ya? 1 minute later. Chance? No. Much later. We lost more than we thought. 5 minutes later. No. Basically done for Pfizer is going to come in and play. Hospital takes the penalty. Hospital. At least Hartford isn't playing the Turtle Derby. 3 minutes later. They score. Bob Crawford, his 39th. Holy shit. From Sullivan and Neufeld. I didn't think he was capable of 30 goals. The division's ours, obviously. Hartford was kind of an easy opponent. I mean, it's weird how Hartford could beat Calgary, but they couldn't beat us. So yeah, so standings, we only have 4 games left. We're gonna simulate them all. Calgary beat Detroit. So yeah, I think this is the last week or something like that. Vancouver beat Winnipeg. That's a key one. We beat Edmonton St. Louis 8-3. Leo losing to Moog. That probably will be a Western Conference final St. Louis, Wickenheiser, Ramage, and Chouinard. I don't know why Wickenheiser is active for both teams, Montreal and St. Louis. Edmonton goes by Anderson, Messier, Gretzky, Coffee, Curry, Gretzky, Anderson, Gregg. Kitchener. Yeah, I know. I didn't say Kitchener. On Sunday, we play Edmonton, Winnipeg, and we win in overtime 8-7. We didn't really care. Fuhrer beats Soltart. We were up 3-0. Winnipeg ended up tying. We were up 7-5 with like 4 minutes left, but Howard and Picard scored. And then Don Jackson in overtime, his 17th. Ooh, makes me feel good. Fuhrer beats Soltart. So coming into Monday, we have 2 games left. We're at 103 points. We have an outside chance to catch Buffalo for number 1 in the NHL. Washington and the others both have 104 points each. Minnesota 5 points up on St. Louis. It's actually not over yet. I thought St. Louis was out. 688. Yeah, St. Louis has an outside chance to catch Minnesota now. I think I did my math wrong. Chicago leads Detroit by an inch. Toronto can't catch Chicago. They can catch Detroit. It would be a massive job if Toronto actually catches for 4th. Edmonton's 1, Calgary's number 2. Winnipeg does have 2 games in hand. They're trying to catch Vancouver to avoid playing us. So that's a big one, Vancouver and Winnipeg. Buffalo's won the Adams. It's a dogfight between Boston and Quebec for 2nd place and home ice. Montreal is doomed to play Buffalo in the first round. Washington and the Islanders tied. Rangers can't catch, so they're 3rd. They're waiting for who drops between Washington and the Islanders. Philly's 4th. They'll have to play the top team in the Patrick. So yeah, Vancouver and Winnipeg. So we're going to be probably Minnesota beats St. Louis. That is the icing on the cake. St. Louis had to go perfect. So Minnesota's the 1 seed. St. Louis will be number 2. We go to Calgary and we shut them down 5-0. As Moog beat Lemlin. Hunter, Messier, Huddy, Gretzky with the goals. Winterpeg crushed LA 6-3. So that means they are now 2 points back at Vancouver with a game in hand. Wednesday, Chicago beat Minnesota. That's big for them. Toronto beat Detroit, but I think Chicago helped. No, wait, Toronto has to catch Detroit. Vancouver beat Winnipeg, so they're trying to force Winnipeg to face us next. That's a big one. Thursday, Hartford, Boston, LA, Calgary. Calgary won. Quebec, Montreal. Montreal won. And the Rangers beat Pittsburgh. Friday, Philly, New Jersey, nothing. Vancouver beats Minnesota. Winnipeg beats St. Louis. So I think we're down to the final days. Is there games on Sunday? There is. Final weekend. Detroit has an out. No, Detroit will be 4. Well, Toronto still has an outside chance. They have to win both their games, and Detroit has to lose both their games. Detroit can't catch Chicago because tiebreakers most wins. So Chicago's the 3 seed and will face St. Louis. Toronto and Detroit are fighting to face Minnesota. Winnipeg only has 1 game left. Vancouver's played all 80 games. Winnipeg can't catch, so it's Winnipeg versus us. Vancouver goes to play Calgary. Yeah, Winnipeg had 33 wins, but Vancouver had 13 ties, the most in the NHL. Calgary is the only other team with double-digit ties. Yeah, so Winnipeg can't catch. So it is Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Chicago, St. Louis. Minnesota will face Detroit or Toronto. Toronto still has a chance. Buffalo's number 1, Montreal's number 4, so it's Montreal, Buffalo. Boston holds a 2-point lead on Quebec with a game in hand, so Boston's trying to ice 2nd and have home ice. And the Patrick, Washington, and the Islanders are tied, literally tied. I don't know how Washington's ahead of the Islanders on points. Philly's number 4, Rangers number 3. Minnesota beat Calgary. Chicago does Toronto a favor by beating Detroit 7-2. Rangers tie. Edmonton, we lose to LA 6-2. Mike Blake beats us, but we weren't playing. So our final game, we lose to LA. Pusar and Gretzky. Buffalo, Quebec. Buffalo beat Quebec. Toronto loses to St. Louis. So St. Louis and the Islanders beat Washington in the second last game. So the Islanders now have first place. And I think they got the tiebreak. So Toronto is nowhere near it. Final results, yeah. So Toronto misses by at least 3 points with Detroit for 4th place. So Detroit will go to Minnesota now. The dead things. Winnipeg can't catch Vancouver, so we know Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary. We know it's Montreal, Buffalo, Quebec now has to go to Boston. and the others just need a point to win the division and face Philly, or else the Rangers will have to go to Washington. Toronto beats Buffalo, but it's all too late. Detroit, yeah, Chicago beat Detroit. So Toronto misses by 1 freaking point. Rangers beat Hartford. Philly beats Washington, helps the Islanders out. The Islanders won anyway, and Winnipeg beat Calgary. So that's it. Final summary. So here's what will happen. The Minnesota North Stars win the Norris at 91 points. St. Louis second with 84. Chicago third with 71. And will go to face St. Louis. And Detroit will go to Minnesota. They beat Toronto by a point. Thankfully, for having 9 ties, Toronto only had 4. Poor Toronto, 29 wins, and it's not going to matter. The Smythe, we crushed it. 50 wins. We win the division by 20. Vancouver sneaks past Winnipeg by 2 points thanks to their ties. Winnipeg had more wins. But it's Winnipeg we'll have to deal with. Vancouver took on Calgary. I wonder how did we do against Winnipeg? Prince of Wales, Buffalo is number 1, Boston number 2, Quebec number 3, Montreal number 4 in the Adams. So it's Montreal, Buffalo, Quebec, Boston. Islanders with that big run take care of things. Washington will be second. Rangers will go to Washington. Philly goes to the Islanders. Gretzky wins the goal race by a landslide, 14 over Pierre LaRouche at 60. Michel Goulet of Quebec had 55, Mike Gunner 54, Rick 52, Mike Bossy 51. Middleton and Brian Sutter, commiserations. They missed by 1 goal for 50. Tim Kerr missed by 2. Paul Coffey ended up tied for 12. Curry ended up tied for 15th in goals. Glenn Anderson was tied for 20th. So 25 players scored 40 goals. Pedersen, Mark Johnson, John Anderson missed by 1. The points race wasn't a race at all. Gretzky 175, great. Paul Coffey's nipped Goulet at the line for second, so 1-2, buckle my shoe for points. Michel Goulet, Brian Trottier, Dale Hawerchuk, Mike Bossy, Peter Stastny, Rick Middleton, Barry Pedersen, Brian Sutter, Pierre LaRouche, Bernie Federico, and Mark Pavlich with 100-point seasons. Gilles Perreault missed by 3 points. Boy, the original Sabre. Yuri Curry missed by 3 points. Glenn Anderson had 88 points. Goes against Barrasso, Jansen, Peters. So basically everything in our best. The best goes against in our conference. Barrasso, Jansen, Peters, Riggin, Hanlon, Smith, and Sauve all play in the Wales. Our conference, Eddie Moog 3.2. Second place in our conference was Grant Fuhr with 3.44, and then Don Buper 3.5. So yeah, we have the best tandem in our conference. Shutouts wise, I think we were close. Well, Moog had 4, Bob Rose had 4 each. Crazy. Corrado Mikolat, 4-8-4. He had a shutout. Bob Mason, 4-1 for Washington. He had a shutout. Great job for him. Mike Ferdinand played 3 games and had a tie. Yeah, Winnipeg. So Winnipeg, we faced them. Final highlights in the regular season: 82 hat tricks and all that. So yeah, a lot of them. 7 games with the 35 points. We actually had we had 2 of them all both losses. So New Jersey win over Toronto was the biggest point thing. Around our team, Moog finishes 27, 8, and 6. Fuhrer 23, 12, and 4. Respectable 50 wins. In real life, he had 57. Points wise, Gretzky 175, Coffey 126, Curry 97. Rulo Simon and Jim Playfair had a point. I don't think we did any game with those guys getting points. Remember, Chartrand scoring an assist. Goal scoring, Gretzky 74, Coffey 45, Curry 44, Anderson 40. Conacher, Barry, and Simonin with a goal each, but I don't think I talked about them. I don't think I did a Chartrand goal or Fogelin goal. Tom Rolston, I don't think I did. Well, he left for Kevin McClellan. Assists, Gretzky 101, Coffey 81, Curry and Messier all 50 assists. Messier with the most penalty minutes, 158. Semenko only had 131, and he was behind Messier and Don Jackson. Jeez. So we play Winnipeg. So how have we done? 0-1 against Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg's been was the 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3, 5-3 against Winnipeg. So Winnipeg gave us fits 3 times. Vancouver, yeah, we only had 5 ties. Vancouver, Well, Vancouver, I think, gave us more of a fit too. Well, actually, Vancouver gave us fits. Vancouver and us split. We split the 8 games against Vancouver. We were 5-3 against them. So we had a 9 game winning streak one time. Yeah, we had a 9 game winning streak. Quebec, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Boston, Calgary, Minnesota. Headed from December 17th towards the new year when we lost to Hartford. That was the 6-5 shocker. I think that was when we had that lead and choked it, right? Yeah, it was actually back and forth. We were up 3-1 and we lost in overtime to Siltanen. And then we had 8 straight wins. Well, that started with Quebec and ended Calgary. We almost had a 9 game winning streak to end the season, tying our mark. You know, we had a couple of 3 game losing streaks. We had a 4 game winless streak in November to Buffalo, New Jersey, Winnipeg, and Los Angeles. So that's it. The playoffs is ready to go. So it is Minnesota, Detroit, St. Louis, Chicago, us against Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Washington, New York, Islanders, Philly, Boston, Quebec, and Buffalo, Montreal. So the next video will be all about the playoffs, all about that base. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.